And this is a discussion actually I think I mentioned about 2-3 years ago when I was here at one of these circles. And that is, why is it so hard to raise children? Why is it so hard to raise children? We know that this is what we want them to be worshippers, we want them to be happy, we want them to have Iman, we want them to be happy, we want them to have Ihsan. But why is it so hard to do that?
Because of the system we live in.
Okay, that's one thing, definitely. Is that the only thing?
We are a bit away from our deen as well. Like we just try and pray 5 times, but actually we're not focusing on our deen. That's the problem.
Okay, so how we understand our deen, what are we imparting to our children? Yeah, that's one other point. What else?
The culture, environment.
The culture and the environment, so the society.
Society.
Yeah.
3 S's.
Yeah, now this brother remembers, yeah? He remembers from 3 years ago. 3 S's, this is why I always come back. Again, framework in our minds. If we remember a framework, we'll always put everything back. And I'll tell you, if you remember this, if you look at any problem, you can always come back to these 3 S's. Self, society, system. Self, what do I mean by self? It is difficult to raise children, is that you are raising an individual with his own ideas, characteristics, traits. And you are a person with your own characteristics, traits, personality, etc. What do I mean by this? Suppose if you're someone who is hot-headed, gets angry very quickly, do you think that's going to make it difficult for you to raise your children?
Of course.
Yeah. Can you repeat again?
If you get angry very quickly, yeah? If you're not a patient person, yeah? If you lack knowledge yourself, yeah? If you lack knowledge, do you think that will make it easier or harder for you to? It makes it harder. So this is what I mean by you as an individual. Yeah? You as an individual may have certain traits and characteristics that actually make it harder for you to win that child or raise that child. You won't be aware. If you don't have knowledge, you won't even be aware of what is going on. So when I said earlier about the Natural History Museum, if you're not thinking about this, your child will go and come and go and come and be exposed to this, and you won't have a clue what they're being exposed to. You won't be able to even help them. Do you see? So you need to have knowledge, but also you need to have knowledge of them, knowledge of what they like and dislike, what they're exposed to, but also your own traits and characteristics. And one of the hardest things I've found about, I'm going to be honest here, one of the hardest things that I've found about raising children is actually dealing with myself. Yeah, it's actually dealing, forget the intellectual stuff, yeah? Actually controlling my own nafs has been the hardest thing. Wallahi, it's been a test. Yeah? But sometimes you're tired, you're working, you're tired, you're busy, you've got other things that you've got in your mind, your children start doing strange things, and you lose your temper. Or you can't, or sometimes you set a plan but you don't follow it through because you get tired. So you say like, okay, I'm going to check on this, and next week you've got to do this, and then you just don't bother. Yeah? So you're not disciplined yourself. Do you see what I'm saying? You're not disciplining yourself. How can you discipline your child? Yeah. So these are some of the internal things that we need to that become a challenge. And of course, the individual child also, he's going through that. Yeah? He's his own person. There's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gifts us with a child. Yeah. You bring the child home. Actually, let's go back a step further. When the child is in the mother's tummy, that child is completely dependent on you, on the mother. Yeah? Baby comes out, completely dependent on mum and dad. From what they're fed, to their being cleaned, to kept warm, completely 100% dependent on the parents. Yeah? After about 6 months, you start giving them food. What do? Allah enables them to turn their head away. Yeah? And then after maybe a year, they can start standing, and you give them some food or they run away. Yeah? So as time goes on, Allah takes away our control over our children. We have less and less control, and they have more and more control. That's something that's very hard for the parents to accept sometimes. Yeah? So you think, I looked after you, I had you in my hand and I fed you, and now you're like walking away. You're answering back even. Yeah? So Allah's given you a tongue now yeah, to answer. Before you just blah, 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 now you're answering back. Yeah? Very hard for us to take sometimes. But we need to be patient. We need to be patient in this. So one is this individual aspect, yeah, that our children are their own individuals, we are our own individuals, and we need to find a way of communicating. One of the big problems I think sometimes is that we're not necessarily good at communicating. There's also this thing called the generation gap. Yeah, so there might be generation gaps can be for different reasons.
This is quite big, the problem.
Yes, the generation gap can be a big thing. Sometimes it can be people say are from abroad, so they grow. Our parents grew up in Bangladesh, Pakistan, wherever it is, yeah, and the child grows up in the West. There's such a big difference in what the culture that they're exposed to. The parents don't even know what is going on. Yeah? Such a big difference, and they don't know how to articulate or even say these things, yeah, in a way that they understand. So there's a big generation gap. Sometimes even if the parents live in the society, they may not be good at communicating this. They may not be aware of what the children is being exposed to. And this is definitely, the pace at which change is happening, it's frightening. Frightening. I mean, my father to me, and for me to my son, I remember the day when the internet came out. 1996, 97, yeah? I knew what life was like before the internet, which is much better than what it is now. And now I know what life is like with the internet. My children have never known life without the internet. And it's a frightening place, the internet, if you don't know what you're doing with that. That's another discussion. Internet safety, some of the thoughts that we need to build about the internet, yeah? But this is something that, so we need to be aware and we need to help them. And so the self is very important. There's another point I want to say about the self. Yeah? Have any of you, as a parent, ever asked your child what they think of you?
Grumpy.
So you've asked, yeah? Okay. You should ask. You need to be brave and patient and control your temper. No, I don't mean it that way. But it's good to ask, because there's something very important about this. Remember that point I said, that we are all believers. And believers, we're all mirrors to each other. Sometimes we think, oh, my friend is my mirror, but not my child. Yeah, he's younger, he's inexperienced, but our wives, our children, our family, they can be a reflection, they can advise as well. As long as it's from Islam, obviously, and done in the correct way with adab and respect. But so, you should ask sometimes, just in a friendly way, get them over dinner and say, guys, if there's one thing that you could see that you think that I can improve, say it like this, if there's one thing that you think I can improve on, what would it be? And don't whatever they say, don't put up defenses. Don't say, why did you say that for? As soon as they said it, then you start saying, well, this and that, etc. Don't say that, yeah? Just listen. Let them speak. So when I asked my children, one of the things they said, this was a few years back, they said, Baba, you lose your temper very quickly. When I thought about it, I didn't say anything. I thought about it, I thought, probably he's got a point. That's a good reflection for me to think about. I want to be a better person. I want to be a better Muslim. I want to be a better parent. Isn't that my responsibility? That's my responsibility. There's something very important. We don't have control over our children. We only have responsibility over our children.
Again?
We don't have control over our children. We only have responsibility. Yeah? Allah will ask us about our response. Did we fulfill our responsibility to our children? In order to fulfill our responsibility, we need to know what some of these problems may be. We need to improve ourselves. So they said, and then I thought, there's a point there. And I've always struggled. I'll be honest. I've always struggled with my temper. Yeah? Mubarak will think I'm this mild-mannered, but I can get angry. Yeah. And so then I worked on it, and I worked on it, and I worked on it. I tell you something about anger. Yeah. Who gets angry here? And children somehow they know how to make us angry, isn't it? They know how to make us angry, and sometimes what they do is that after we get angry, then we say to them, "You made me angry. It's your fault. You made me angry." But here's something to think about. Anger is a reaction,
Yes.
and we decide whether we react or not. Just think about that, what I've just said.
Yeah.
Anger is a reaction, and it's for us to decide whether we react like that or not. Allah has given us free choice. You can choose to react. We can blame our child and say, "You made me angry, you did this, yeah? But the real issue isn't them, it's you. Yes, there's a provocation, but you allowed yourself. Yeah? So just think about that next time. So I was thinking about this, and then a few months later I asked the children again, so what do you think? Give me some feedback. And my son said something interesting. He said, "You used to be angry a lot, but you seem to have sorted yourself out." Yeah? I've gone backwards a bit more recently, but I got an update, and he says, "Oh, you're a bit worse again." But the point is that ask. This S, the first S, which is self. There are many things. How am I as a community? Do you think I listen to you? Do you think I communicate well with you? How can I be better? Sorry. How could I be better? Ask, just be plain. Because and actually this is very important, because if you have that environment where children and parents we are Muslims together. We are Muslims together. We're trying to become better Muslims together. It's actually, it shows them how to behave and how to look at Islam. Sometimes it's almost like, I know everything, you know nothing, and I'm expected, but the problem is that you don't know everything. You don't know everything. And so when you make the mistake, they're going to say, well, you always say that you pretend that you know everything, well, now you made a mistake. As opposed to actually being genuine and saying, I don't know everything. My son the other day was saying to me, "Baba, sometimes you build me up and sometimes you tear me down. Why is that?" And it really made me think. I stopped and I was really thinking, he's noticed something. Sometimes I encourage him and build him up, and sometimes I tear him down. And I thought about why I do that. In my mind, I have a picture of what I'd like my children to be. So I'm building. Does everyone know Lego? Yeah, you know Lego? And Lego, you put the pieces together, and sometimes you put the piece in, and it's in the wrong place. And then what do? You take it off. Yeah? Because you know that you made a mistake. I'm a human being, I'm trying to raise my children. I have a picture of what I want to build. But in that process of building, I'm weak, I'm limited, I don't have knowledge, I make mistakes. I put the piece in the wrong place. And then I realize that's in the wrong place, so then I have to take it off. From him, it's saying, you're tearing me down. I'm taking out the Lego piece. Because I made a mistake. I'm not perfect. Sometimes we put it in the wrong place and realize straight away it's in the wrong place, we take it off. Sometimes we build it quite a bit and then we find, oh my goodness, right down there I put the thing in the wrong place. So I've got to do a lot more tearing down. Yeah? But again, my point is that when it comes to self, there's many, many ideas and thoughts. You've got to lead by example. You've got to be honest. You've got to be genuine. You've got to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a big area there. At the end of the day, wallahi, you can do whatever we want, but if we don't get Allah's support, we're getting nowhere. Yeah? So there's all of these things are all part of the self. Yeah? So just think about that. And actually, maybe what you can do, go away and think about, make a list of what are the self issues? What are the characteristics that I think I have that are good for my children, and characteristics that are not good for my children? Write it down. Be genuine, just write it down. You don't have to show it to anyone. Just write down, be honest and assess yourself and say, these are some of the good characteristics I have, which I think are good will help me with my children. And these are some of the characteristics actually, they're not going to help me. Yeah. They're not going to help me. It could be something as simple as you're on your phone all the time. It could be something as simple as that you're working all the time. How can you build your children if you're working all the time? Be honest with yourself. And then ask yourself the question, do I really need to work all the time? Here's a piece of advice that someone I was thinking about recently. You know, there are critical times in the lives of our children. When they're very small, the mothers look after them, they don't need very much. But as they get a bit older, especially the teenage years are the most critical, especially in this environment. Yeah, that's the time when kids, they need their parents, both parents, especially their fathers. If you are now busy with career, work, whatever you're doing, making money, building your third house, fourth house, fifth house, yeah, you will regret it. I have lots of colleagues at work, and I work part-time, and this is one of the reasons why I do so. And they say to me, they want to give me jobs and this and that, there's lots of work that needs to be done. There's huge, the NHS is under huge pressure, so they always ask me to do extra work, and I say, look, I can't do it. And then they say, why? And I say, look, I've got children, I need to be at home, all the rest of it. And then they say, yeah, you know something, you're right. If I could go back, my biggest regret is that when my children were growing up, I was busy with my career and my work. Yes, I've now become something big, and I've got a big house and all the rest of it, yeah? But I lost my children. But your children only need you for a certain amount of time.
No.
Yeah.
When your children is 18, they're going to university, you're not going to even see them anymore. Yeah? They don't need you anymore. There's a certain time when they need you, and you need to be free at that time, or try to make yourself free at that time. Yeah? And you need to say, luxuries, can I do less with the luxuries? Just for a short time, even for a few years. You know, I wanted to buy a fancy car, forget that. I just need to be at home more. Yeah? Invest in your children. You see that time as investment in your children. Yeah? And you know, rizq is from Allah, Allah will give. Yeah? But do that duty. So if you can, if you have children at that time, try to find avenues to reduce your... I know it's difficult. We live in a very, again, materialistic world. For many of us, we have to work, and you know, long hours, not enough pay, inflation is going up, price of things is going up, we have to work long hours, so it's difficult. But if you can, try at this time to reduce. So that's the self. So be honest, go away tonight, make a list. What are my characteristics? Good, bad? What do I find difficult? Do I find it difficult to understand my children, to listen to my children? Do I even know what they're up to? Do they talk to me? Do they hate me so much that they don't want to talk to me? Because they think all I do is shout at them and tell them off and tell them to do their homework. My only relationship with my child is, have you done your homework? It could be, isn't it? So think about this. So that's the self. And also the child's, get to know the child's characteristics. You know, some children, they are very soft-natured. If you're too hard on them, what will happen?
That is terrible.
You'll break them. That's a very good term. You'll break them. Something is soft, it'll break. And yet some children, they're very hard and they need harshness. Yeah. This is the way Allah has created different people. Yeah? So, but you need to know which one works and which one doesn't. You know, when I was a kid, my brother, I have one brother. He's younger than me. And one of the things that would really annoy me when I was a young teenager, is that my father, alhamdulillah, he's now 83, very wise man. I learned a lot from him. He would treat me and my brother differently. So if I did something, I would know about it. If my brother did the same thing, and he's 6 years younger than me, he'll be let off. And I just like, this is not, how can this be? Yeah? And and I would be angry. And once I went to my father and was like, you know, you treat me like this and you treat him like that. How come? And he said to me, look, see these 5 fingers?
It's all the same.
They're not all the same. Simple. Yeah? They're 5 fingers. Allah's given 5 fingers on your hand, they're not all the same. And yet you need all your fingers to do the thing that it needs to do. But you can't treat people exactly the same because they're different. I know what you need and I know what he needs. And if I do the same for both of you, it won't work. It'll actually cause more problems. At the time, I was thinking, what does my father know? It's so unfair. Now, wise. Yeah, he was wise. He knew. And if you study the seerah, if you study the hadith and things, you see that. A man comes to the Prophet and says, give me advice. And to this one man he says, control your temper. Rasulullah knows what this man needs. Another man comes and says, give me advice. He says something completely different. Same person, two different people came, he gives two different answers. Why? Because he knows what different people need. And it's the same with our children. You need to know, but you won't know unless you have some sort of observation and some experience and some time and all of these sort of things. But don't make the mistake of treating everyone the same. And if you have girls and boys, then it's even more different. Yeah. And here's something that will help: is that be willing to be flexible, adaptable. Yeah? You know, this is a hadith of. Allah sent Jibreel alayhi salam to the earth, and he got the sand from different places, and then he took it back to shape Adam alayhi salam. Yeah, and that's why. And the hadith says that the sand, some are rough, and some are soft, and some are smooth, some are light, some are dark, and that is why the children of Adam, some are rough, and some are smooth, and some are dark, and some are light. SubhanAllah, beautiful hadith. Yeah, it shows that the difference is amongst us, where it comes from.
Yeah.
We need to appreciate that, and then we need to try our best to start thinking along those lines as to how we can help our children and help ourselves. So we need to know ourselves, and we need to know our children. Okay?
So,
It's harder than it sounds. A lot harder. Yeah. I can sit here and tell you the theory. The practice is, wallahi, it is tough. Practice is tough. I struggle. There are many things. I'm being honest with you. You have to be honest. Yeah, it is a struggle. Yeah. Sometimes I have two children. One child is very similar to me in the way they think, and one child is very not similar to me in the way they think. With one child, I know what they're thinking. Yeah, I know how they behave because they behave like me. The other child, I really have to. I don't know. How does this child think? It's tough. It is very tough. But you've got to keep trying. And this is where support and help. You know, there's one brother recently. I was on the phone to him, and I said, what happens to kids when they become teenagers?" And he goes, "Bro, don't get me started." And then we spent about 2 hours just talking. Yeah, and he was telling me about all the problems he's having with his kids, and I tell him all the problems. And he's like. And afterwards I felt, hey, okay, so I'm not the only one who's like this, yeah? This is normal. And also the other thing is, don't forget yourself. How were you when you were younger? Yeah. I mean, I asked my mother once, I said, like, I'm going through this, what do I do? And she said to me, have you forgotten what you were like? And I said, yeah, you're right, I've forgotten what I was like. So again, just that gives you a little bit more patience and realizing, yeah, okay, we go through these phases, things are a little bit tricky. Inshallah, with some help, we'll get back to the right place. Yeah. That's how 8:30. Let's just wrap up there actually. So I only did this. Yes.
Before you move to the next one, when you say the self, so you mean self of one parent or both?
Oh, very good. Very good.
This pain sometimes damages the
Yes,
child as well.
yeah. So these are all the factors in the household between you or those you're responsible for. So your children, your wife. Obviously, I haven't mentioned the wife, but yes, that's a very good point to raise actually. Father, mother. I mean, the normal scenario is father, mother in the household. Yeah. Need to be both aligned. To work together to raise children. Yeah? And so if you have certain thoughts, one is a communication with your children, but there's a communication that way as well.
That's
yeah?
what I asked you 2 years ago, if you remember. Same question.
the lateral communication has to be there as well. So there's extra layer of communication. And again, that's, if you're not aligned, if your thinking is not aligned, if it's not going back to that original, why do we have children? We want them to have iman, we want them to be happy, we want them to seek ihsan. If your other half is, I want my child to be rich and famous and do whatever, it doesn't matter, you're going to struggle. Yeah. So a lot of work has to be on that. So, you realize just the S is hard work.
Yeah.
First we at least spend some time with wife.
Yeah, that's right.
Because obviously, like, if you are not both similar,
Yeah.
the kids now, you can't teach them anything.
And it's not
Totally different things.
Yes. So
This is another world war.
another world war. Okay. Hopefully not a war. Hopefully not a war. It's true. I mean, one of the things that I wrote an article not too long ago, and one of the points that I said is that happy parenting, successful parenting needs successful marriages.
Nice.
Yeah, true. If your marriage is falling apart, or there's war going on, how are you going to deal with children? No way. So this is another aspect. Thank you for raising this. Is that you need to invest time with the other half. When?
At the beginning
How?
of marriage or throughout?
Oh,
Ongoing process.
Ongoing. Because this is a point that sometimes we start off. The nature of human beings, especially with the ayah that talks about muadda wa rahma. Yeah, muadda is like the love, the passion. Yeah, we all start off with when you get married, so there's lots of love and passion. Yeah, but towards the end you need the rahma. You need mercy. So with each other. Yeah, so absolutely don't take for granted. Just as your child, you need to nurture any relationship. You need to nurture. You need to work on. And we forget that sometimes. Sometimes I realize some of the big mistakes I make sometimes is that I just let things go, and just take for granted that my wife, she's okay, she'll handle this, and that person will do that. But actually, you need to make sure that that relationship is some effort is put into that. We put effort into our children, we put effort into our wives, etc. So sometimes, so you can see how much thinking and work needs to go on at all fronts. Yeah. I'm going to stop there. So we talked about the first S, and again, maybe the takeaway from today is two things. One is go and write down your analysis of yourself. Be honest. No one needs to see this, but write it down. Don't just think about it, because what will happen if you think about it? Writing has a very good effect. It makes you see. It makes you see something. Yeah. I am this, I am this, I am this, I am this.
practical.
And that, then you can start thinking, okay, so I have this problem. Maybe I'm angry a lot. Maybe I'm lazy a lot. Maybe you have some other characteristic, yeah? And if you see that, then you start thinking, okay, what should I do about this thing? What can I do to change myself? That's one thing. The second thing is ask your children. Give them feedback, generally, in a nice way. I warn my children, I won't react. Just ask them. Give me some feedback. How can I be a better Muslim? Sometimes it's a one-way traffic. Yeah, we just tell them. Let them tell us. How could you? And children are very good. They observe.
So ask the child, how can me parent? Is it?
Yeah, no. So how can you be a better Muslim? Yeah, so ask the child. When you look at me, is there anything that you see that I need to improve on? Now, look, just because they've said it doesn't mean that you. Obviously, they're a child, so they might say something which is genuine, and we think about it. And it may be that they said something that's it's not really an issue. Yeah, Umar al-Khattab used to say that may Allah have mercy on the person who gives me advice. Yeah, who gives nasiha, because through nasiha is like a gift. When I give someone a gift, you can take the gift and you can use it, or you can leave it, or you can throw it away. Yeah? Nasiha is like that. If I give you, brother, I've noticed this, you can think, yeah, brother's right, I need to do something. Brother's actually, he hasn't understood what's happening, it's irrelevant, discard it. Right? But so let your children speak to you, and you might find actually you might be surprised by what they say. So that's the homework for until next month. And the other thing I would say is that, so the three S's, one is the self, all these relationships, and including the other half. And then we've got society and all the ideas in there, and then we've got the system and why it's making it so hard for us. We can do that in the future.
The system, and you mean the state, isn't it?
State, yeah.
Sorry, what to do if the parents are separated?
Okay, what do you
I
mean
mean, it's
by
very common in this country, like divorce and separation. So
It
you've
makes
got
it-
two different mentalities between husband and wife, and they got separated or divorced or whatever.
Yeah,
Then how's it gonna work?
it's very difficult. It's very difficult. There's no easy way around some of these scenarios because, you know, with parenting you want both parents. And this actually, there's a deeper point here. I know when a couple are going through that divorce, no one gets married thinking that they're going to divorce. Yeah. But there's a point, you know, there's Umar al-Khattab, a man came to him and complained about his son. And he said, my son, he doesn't listen to me, he's bad, and all of this. Umar was surprised. He called the son and he asked his son, your father's complaining. What do you have to say? He's a good ruler. You always hear both sides of the story. The son said, ask my father, did he choose for me a good mother? Did he teach me about Islam? And what did he teach me? Yeah? He failed me first. So that Umar, when he heard this, was very angry with the man. He said, you didn't give your son his rights, then how do you expect your rights from him? But the important thing here is that you choose a good mother. Before children comes parents. Yeah, before children comes parents. And sometimes, unfortunately, I don't think we think along these lines. When we think of a spouse, we're not thinking about children. You know, one of the good advice that a friend of mine gave me before I got married, he said one thing, he said something very good. He said, brother, when you look for a wife, think about someone who will be a good mother to your children. That is such precious advice.
But the brother's question is, if you didn't get time
Yeah.
to think about it.
Yeah. So my point is that for those people, you know, we should encourage younger people to think along these lines. You know, one of my blogs that I write, I have people who aren't even married yet, and they read my blog. And it's quite interesting, they actually make comments. They say, I read your blog because although I'm not married, I want to get prepared. I'm getting prepared for it. So this is a very important idea to have. And unfortunately, a lot of our lives, we're not prepared at all. We're not trained at all. You know, we just get married because of society. Our parents say, right, it's time for you to get married, or we fall in love and all the rest of it, get married. We're not even thinking about why we're getting married, what we want to get from the marriage, what our children are going to be. So this is actually another part of raising your children, especially as your children get a little bit older, is that you need to put these ideas into their heads. Otherwise they will follow the same footsteps that make the same mistakes we've made, or other people have made, yeah? Now, specifically in your case, it is very difficult. Because once you have a divorce, and the divorce is basically on different paths. So one parent wants one thing, another parent one thing. Again, this goes back to the problem of society and state. Unfortunately, the state doesn't help us at all.
No.
Because the state is on the side of the mother.
Yes.
Now, if the mother may be a good person and it's the father who's the problem, alhamdulillah, that's not as bad. But sometimes it's the father who wants to be Islamic and the mother wants to be whatever, then you're in serious problems. What can you do? There's literally nothing you can do. Forget Muslims. Non-Muslims are crying. Non-Muslims are crying and say, I don't have access to my children. I'm a GP. I get people coming to me depressed. Why? Why are you depressed? We've had a divorce. My wife, out of bitterness, has taken my children away and I don't even have access to them. I can't even see them. I haven't seen my children in 2 years. Yeah? I'm doing a court battle, but it's just, I'm not given any opportunity because it's a really messed up system, yeah? That they give just one side all the rights. So unfortunately, it is very difficult. Very difficult. And these things, sometimes all you can do is two things. My advice is make dua.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you know, sometimes all you can do when everything is dua. And be patient.